A lot of people have very elaborate task management systems with crazy setups built in apps like Notion or Obsidian. But those apps are not specifically designed for managing nor capturing tasks, which means you're adding on a lot of friction and will probably end up spending more time managing the system itself rather than getting things done. Because there's two things that make a good task management system, which is capturing and processing. And while those apps are okay at processing, they're not particularly good at capturing. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through my system that makes managing my tasks as simple as possible. And I'll also share plenty of real-world examples of how I use it daily. Now, you might have heard of David Allen's quote, "Your brain is for having ideas, not holding them," which then begs the question, where do you hold them? And there are plenty of dedicated apps that you can use. I personally use the free version of Todoist, but it honestly doesn't matter which one you use. And this is not meant to be a Todoist tutorial because I actually already made one, and you can find it right here somewhere on the screen. But I like Todoist for its natural language processing, which is second to none. I can simply tell it in plain words when my task is due or how often it repeats, and secondly, for how efficient it is at capturing information. And I think capturing is the most underrated aspect of a good system, because if you're anything like me, the time frame between having a task, or especially an idea, and writing them down is very short. If I have to wait for a loading animation and assign a couple of metadata or property fields, it's gone. If I have to wait until I'm at my desktop, also gone. And even if it isn't gone, it's just too much friction, and this needs to be as frictionless as possible. Because this is the capture process. It doesn't matter to me if the tasks are organized or have tags or whatever it may be. We'll take care of that later in the processing stage. For now, it's just about getting all of our thoughts, tasks, and ideas into a unified inbox. And let's start with capturing on the go, because I usually come up with a lot of my ideas in the gym or walking, and every time one of them comes up, I just pull up my phone and type them down in Todoist. And Todoist has an awesome customizable widget, which means that with a single tap, I can start typing. Comparing that to using the app directly, or even worse, using Notion or Obsidian, where you have a loading animation and have to add a couple of property fields, it seems small, but for me, it makes a huge difference. The other activity that somehow leads me to have plenty of ideas is driving. Naturally, I don't want to pick up my phone and start typing, but Todoist has an Apple Watch app that lets me dictate a task straight into my inbox, and this is one of my favorite features of Todoist. But sometimes my idea or task is more complex than just a couple words. Sometimes it's more like me thinking out loud, and Todoist has a character limit. So instead, I use this neat little app that's been around for a while called Drafts. And there's nothing special about Drafts aside from the fact that it has some of the best speech-to-text recognition, and it also has an Apple Watch app. Next up is email, because that's where a lot of my tasks come through. I usually check my email either on my phone or on my iPad, which means that if it's an email I need to take some time to reply, I simply share it to my Todoist and it becomes a task. I can also give it a quick description to add more clarity to what I need to do. But if an email takes less than 2 or 3 minutes to reply, I usually just do it right there and then. This is typically called the 2-minute rule. More on that later. But most of the time, I'm on my desk, and this is where more or less half of all the tasks are added to Todoist. I'll be on the desktop working or even relaxing, and I'll think of something to do, and I instinctively press Ctrl Space, which brings up the quick add window for Todoist, and I can then write down everything I need without even having to leave the window that I'm working on. There's also other sources that tend to spark either tasks or ideas, such as Twitter, Reddit, or RSS feeds. And because I browse them typically on the phone, if there's a tweet or a Reddit post that I want to look into later, I just save them into my Todoist the same way I do my email. And yeah, sure, I could save them on Reddit or bookmark them on Twitter, but this way not only can I add relevant information alongside the link, but I also get to have all of them in one unified inbox, which makes it really convenient. And speaking of which, a great way to conveniently manage your company's digital assets is by using today's sponsor, NordPass. NordPass offers a secure way to manage your digital assets without compromising on convenience. It ensures that all of your sensitive information remains protected, while at the same time being super convenient by not only providing unique and strong passwords, but also autofilling them across all of your devices. But NordPass goes beyond just managing your company's passwords. It allows you to securely store credit card details as well as other sensitive information like safe codes or Wi-Fi passwords. And you can securely share those details with your team members at the click of a button instead of sending confidential information via a text message or an email. NordPass also provides your team with a unified vault for all of their assets so they can be accessed and updated as needed. See NordPass Business in action now with a 3-month free trial by using my code FromSergioPass, which you can find in the description below. A big thank you to NordPass for sponsoring this video. So far, we've only went over capturing all our tasks and ideas into a unified inbox. And before we go over how to process them, there's 2 types of tasks that for me don't even get processed. And the first is tasks that can be done in less than 2 minutes, which is known as the 2-minute rule. I like this, but honestly, even if it takes me 5 minutes, I'd rather just do it right away as opposed to let it take up mental space. And the second type is tasks with an actual due date, because the way I do things is if a task has a due date, it belongs in my calendar, not on my to-do list. If it's an assignment or an event or tennis practice or whatever it may be that has a non-negotiable date, it goes on my calendar. If it's stuff that I want to do but don't have a strict due date, such as my monthly finances or clean up the house, water the plants, etc., all of that goes in my to-do list. And the same way a lot of people use apps like Notion or Obsidian for task managers, they also use it for their calendar. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I really believe in using the right tool for the right job. And there's so many benefits to having a dedicated calendar app that I've never even considered not having one. You could also use integrations between your to-do list and your calendar, but I like to deliberately keep the two separate because they serve very different purposes. Alright, so let's go over processing the tasks that didn't get done right away, nor placed on the calendar. Now, every task lands in your inbox, but the inbox is just a landing page. And if you keep everything in the inbox and you work off of it, you're not going to have a clear goal of what you want to do on a given day. Not to mention, all tasks are going to default to the same priority level, and obviously not all tasks carry the same importance level to us. I'm definitely more concerned with planning out my upcoming video than buying new swim shorts. So when I go over my inbox, I assign each task a priority level using Todoist priority system, which ranges from 1 through 4, 1 being the most important. And these tasks on Todoist don't have a due date, those are on my calendar. So I approach them on a day-by-day basis, and I feel like Todoist was almost built for this. Because when you're assigning a task, you can just tell it something like this weekend or next week or even 3 weeks from now. I say almost built for this because the only thing I wish Todoist had is a later tab, because many of my tasks really don't have a date. So to get around this, I created a later label, so for all the tasks that I have no urgency for, I just assign them the later label. More on that in a second. And lastly, there are tasks that you know you're going to be repeating in a specific time frame, like each week or even each day. And Todoist makes this super easy to set up. You can just tell it this task repeats every Monday, or every 30th of the month, or even every 4 p.m. I have a bunch of monthly tasks like check my financials, my analytics, and a bunch of stuff around the house. But the way Todoist works is that if a task has no project assigned, it will still be in your inbox. So I give each task a project which simply correlates to one of the 3 big areas in my life, which is personal, YouTube, and work. And when I'm on my desk, I have the Todoist Today page open at all times, which shows all my tasks due today in order of importance. So routine tasks on top, and then you have priority 1, priority 2, etc. And this way, every time I look at it, I know exactly what I have to do today. And for me, this dramatically increases the odds that I do what I set out to do. And the last thing I do before I shut down for the day is to open up Todoist and decide what I want to do tomorrow, and I make sure to give it the proper priority levels. And let's say I'm planning out tomorrow's day and I see that I don't have that much to do tomorrow. I can then come into my tasks that have a later label and I'll assign some of those to tomorrow. So throughout the day, I'm going to capture a ton of stuff, but some of those tasks will have to be done that day. So I simply tell Todoist that task is due today, assign it a priority, and it'll be there on the Today page. Everything else will be on the inbox waiting for me at the end of the day to prepare for the following day. There's a lot more stuff to Todoist, especially when it comes to filters and labels. To give you an example, all my tasks have labels like 10 or 20 minutes and on phone. So if I'm waiting at the bank or at the doctor's office, I just pull up my phone and see which quick task I can do right there. And I covered all of that and more in this video right here. So make sure to watch that to really get the most out of Todoist.